big air. Oh, that's Josh running wide. And look how close they are. And away they go. The two Subarus get away fairly evenly. Kieran tries to go in wide. Oh, Tom's hit Kieran. But Josh goes back on the inside. Gary goes wide. Mike goes up on the inside of Gary. Oh, there's a bit of a tap there. Oh, there's Craig has pushed Sam into the wall. Josh Hardy wins his second ever win and the second win of the day. Chris doing more rallycross in the BMW than actual touring car racing. And it's the first win for Mark Nicol in the Renault Megane. Joe's definitely going to get it. A fantastic win for Heath on his debut event. His first ever win in the Nissan GTR. Unless Kieran can make a last minute dive. And he does. And Mark Nicol is 6th, which means he's the independent champion for season 2. Craig Keller in the Nissan GTR. It's going to be a win for Craig. Craig Keller is going to take the win in this race. Craig Keller is your season 2 FWTC champion. Hello and welcome to the FWTC Online Touring Car Championship. My name is Tom and as always I'll be your commentator. We join you here for round 4 of season 3 at the Dragon Trail circuit based in Croatia, which is a 3.2 fictional circuit, and it's the second time the FWTC tourers will visit here after season 2 showed the first visit with a win for Craig Keller and 2 wins for Josh Hardy after he took his first ever win in race 2 and decided to take another win in race 3. It'll be a 13 lap race for each of the races, so let's see if Josh can take another set of wins here, and let's have a look at the entry list for Dragon Trail. It's another 16 car full grid for Dragon Trail. The biggest news is that Tom Foster has not attended for K-Tech Racing, so they'll be only running the one car for the Ford Mustangs. The rest of the teams, of course, have all turned up. In the independents, Tom Wright misses out for a second time in a row in the Renault Megane, but Josh, Gary and Connor have all turned up to continue their fight in the independents. The newcomers, Joe, McCall and Luke will run their BMW side by side as a team, but of course they don't get to score the points for the teams, so they'll be running for the first time on the track together. Calum returns in his Subaru WRX from season 1, and another newcomer in the form of Aaron West will run a Mazda, which is the ex-Joe Burrows from season 2, including the livery, as Aaron hasn't had time to adjust it after a very last minute change from a Mitsubishi Evo, which turned out to not be on pace enough for Aaron to race. The situation with the tyre ballast into this round at Dragon Trail, Stephen Heath and Rob Pellet both will be on the hard tyres after getting some good results at Lago Maggiore. Mike Kuipers, Darren Parker are both on the medium tyres, and of course Craig Kellett and Josh Hardy will be on the standard softs. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects the results here at Dragon Trail. Let's have a look at the grid for race 1 then, before we head on the track for race 1. Here's your grid then for race 1 here at Dragon Trail. Craig Kellett is back up at the forefront for Elliott Racing in his Nissan GTR, on pole position next to Harry Cooke in a strong second for the DC Motorsports BMW M4. Row 2, we've got Connor Hewlett in the Subaru WRX next to Mark Nicol in the first of the K&N Racing Nissan GTRs. Row 3 is the single K-Tech Racing Ford Mustang of Kieran Thomas next to the Renault Megane of Gary Black. Row 4 is Josh Hardy in his Renault Megane in the independents next to Joe McCall in the first of the BMW M4s for Team Snap-on. Row 5 is Mike Kuipers in the K&N Racing Nissan GTR next to Darren Parker in the second of the BMW M4s for DC Motorsports. Row 6 is the second of the BMW M4s of Luke Knox, Team Snap-on, next to Stephen Heath in the Hyundai Genesis, next to the other Hyundai Genesis of Joe Burrows, next to Rob Pellet in the Nissan GTR for Elliott Racing, and on the back row of grid, Aaron West in the ex-Joe Burrows Mazda Atenza, next to Calum Baker in his Subaru WRX. Okay then, here we go. Race 1 of Dragon Trail. Craig Kellett is on the front row of the grid, pole position next to Harry Cooke after a really strong showing in race 3 for Lago, and away they go. Connor Hewlett, look at the start he's got again. Connor's really showing how quick he is off the grid in that Subaru, and Connor takes the lead, but Craig has just got back in front, and Mark Nicol is up to second now. So they all go down into the first few corners. It's looking nice and tidy so far. On board with Mike, who's got some work to do in 10th after a very, very disappointing Lago, but of course he was on the hard tyres. So Joe McCall is up to 7th, and Harry Cooke has already dropped down to 6th, so disappointing start for Harry. Gary Black is in 4th, so looking strong for Gary so far. And that is a good move from Gary. He's going up to 3rd, so Gary Black into a podium position now, ahead of Connor. The first time into the bus chicane for season 3. Look how quick, oh, sideways for Connor. That's unbelievable. We can have another look at the replay of that, because that was fantastic how Connor somehow manages to keep the car under control. Of course he loses place, and as Gary's getting a bit under out of control here. The two Renaults are side by side. Connor's on the outside here as well. Look at that. There's lots of touching going on between these three, and these three are actually in the independence fight. It's 4 wide as they go down into the first bend. Who's going to go? It's the two Renaults of Gary and Josh who really make it into that first corner, and it's continuing on this fight. So really hotting up with the independents early into the season. But as we said, we're going to look at Connor losing control in that bus shelter. So let's have another look and find out what happened with Connor. Let's go on board with Connor and watch him as he just nearly loses the car. There, look. Well controlled. On board with Josh. And up ahead is Connor. And you'll see it go through the bus chicane okay. And then into the exit of it. There. So easy to do, but Connor maintains control. More three-way tussles going on now then, as since we said that Connor has unfortunately dropped down even further after going off the circuit. So Connor now down to 10th, so really not working out. Oh, that's Kieran. So Kieran's gone into the wall. Yep, that's a shame for Kieran. He drops down right down to 13th now, so Kieran 14th as Stephen Heath is joining him at the back, who is obviously on the hard tyres. There's Aaron West just getting to grips with the Mazda, so it'll take him a little while before he can start being competitive. Very little time for him on the track in that Mazda. So Craig leading, and leading quite comfortably so far. Mark Nicol comfortably in 2nd. Gary Black was comfortably in 3rd. He's off the track, so Gary has just unsettled the car, and that's allowed Josh to go up to 3rd, and allows Mad Joe, which is Joe McCall, into 4th as well. So Gary having to settle for 5th, just in front of Harry. The fantastic looking Lerner plates on the back of Joe's car. Nothing like a bit of humour. So Mike has managed to make some progress and is just behind Connor now, so could be pushing for 7th. So further down, Kieran has got some work to do, and the two Hyundai Genesis, who both struggled to qualify, are much further down than what they've previously been. So this is a time for the two Hyundais to struggle here and take a hit for the team's title. And the two of them go into the bus shelter together. This is not what the team want to be seeing, even at the back of the grid. There's Luke and Rob, who's struggling also in his Nissan with Westy, is still getting to grips with that Mazda. So Mark is on the back of Craig. It doesn't seem to be Craig pulling away too much, and actually I think Mark is catching up a little bit in that Nissan. But the fight for 3rd is hotting up really between Josh with Joe, Gary and Harry. And Joe unfortunately not getting the great exit, so that's allowed him allowed Gary to potentially push on the back of Joe here, and Harry looking very, very quick and actually looking a little bit impatient here behind Gary. They hit the gravel. That's Joe sideways, also tank slapping, very similar to Connor, and that's allowed Gary to get back ahead. So Gary up to 4th again, and Gary was in 3rd, so he's no doubt wanting to get that podium position back again. And Mike very quickly catching this pack as well, so Mike could be in for some better points. That's Kieran hits the wall, so Kieran has just hit the wall and dropped behind Joe, and he was fighting up there with Darren and Joe, and you heard him hit the wall. So not happening for Kieran so far. Oh, and that bus shelter, of course we saw it in season 2, can cause some real chaos for all the drivers. If you get it wrong, it really does slow you down. It can spin you round. So Luke has just felt the full force of it. We've got away with it lightly. Connor down to 13th, so Connor's struggling now. And Aaron's got ahead of Rob, so something's happened to Rob, and Rob is having a nightmare. So Craig is still leading. It's worth noting that Calum isn't to be seen in this race, unfortunately. I think he had some technical issues, so he didn't really get underway at the start. I'll find out what happened to him. He's gone board with Mark, and you can see that he's on the gravel, pushing maybe a bit too hard to catch up with Craig. This is the first time we've really seen Mark up at the forefront again after a couple of very, very difficult rounds, after being on those tyres, which has hurt him quite hard, and so having to try and rebuild those points. And Mark goes into the wall, and that's spun him round. Mark had struggled with the bus chicane in season 2, and that's someone else. That is Gary Black. Gary Black has hit the wall as well. This is bad for Gary, and Kieran goes into him as well. Absolute chaos at the bus chicane for everyone in race 1. Both Gary and Mark really lose out in their races after hitting them and spinning round. So we're going to have a look at the replays in a second after both Gary and Mark, who drops down to 6th. So again, I think he's got off lightly with that, but he was in 2nd, and that was going to be a good point. So he's actually behind his teammate Mike. That would have been a good points haul for K&N Racing as well. So just when the luck was needed on their side and it was looking good, Mark has hit the wall unfortunately and dropped down to 6th. but Mike is up to 5th, so probably a positive for him. And that's Harry. Oh, and that's Joe, who's sideways. Let's have a look at the replay then for Mark and Gary as they go into the bus shelter chicane. Let's watch Mark as he goes through the chicane here on board, as we saw him hit the wall externally. It's just the exit was just a little bit too much. Didn't quite get the angle right, and then look how he really struggles to get the car facing the right way. Let's watch Gary then, as Gary also hit the wall, but we didn't see really what happened with Gary. He's going through the chicane as normal, and I think it's also his exit. Oh, he actually hits the first wall, and the second wall then spins him, and so does, it looks like Mike as well. But then Gary just struggles to face the right way, and there's where the contact is with Kieran. On board with Kieran, as we're going to watch and see Gary in a second appear. There he is. So Josh is up to 2nd, and Josh showed that he was strong here at Dragon Trail in season 2 after taking his first win and second win both in the same weekend. Not necessarily to be so far here, as it's only lap 6, but Craig is quite ahead. It's going to be a big job for Josh to try and catch them. Harry is up to 3rd after clawing his way back up from dropping down in the grid at the start, and Joe maintaining 4th now after spinning slightly, losing a few positions. So Mark has dropped another position behind Joe Burrows, who is really shot up after struggling in the first part of this race and in the qualifying. And Darren is also making headway and is now going to put Mark under threat for 7th. Kieran in 9th, Stephen in 10th on the hard tyres, so that's not too bad for Stephen. Luke Knox and Connor. That's Luke, has gone ahead of Stephen. And now it's a 3-way going down into the S's. Luke is still leading it, but Stephen's gone on the inside and there's a push wide. So Heath has stayed ahead. Connor's got ahead of Luke now as well. So Luke is struggling slightly, and Gary is trying to make up positions after that horrendous off earlier. So on board with Aaron, and he is having a fight with Rob. Into the wall he goes. Oh, that's Gary again. So Gary has hit the wall for a 2nd time, and this is really going to knock his confidence. And I wonder if Gary is struggling somewhat after the 2nd time hitting the wall. We can have another look at a replay and find out why he hit the wall again. But from 3rd position all the way down to the back of the grid, it's a nightmare for Gary. So Craig's still leading by a big lead, a big gap, comfortably leading, and this is reminiscent of season 2 when Craig dominated quite a few different races and really wanted the challenge for season 3. So when the regs came into play, he jumped at the chance of the challenge. He struggled at Lago for the first time, and so really trying to bolster those points back up here at Dragon Trail to continue his defence for the title. But in 2nd and 3rd, Harry and Josh, Having a great fight. Josh has dropped off slightly. Harry's caught him up. So that's Joe on fourth on his own, and the gap between the top few cars is really significant here. Joe Burrows comfortable in fifth now. Darren up to sixth with Mike Kuipers not too far behind, so Darren has overtaken Mike. BMW is showing their strengths here at Dragon Trail. Mike looking quite strong here, looking racy. Can he get past Darren? So Mark Nicol is now under threat from Kieran. Connor is 10th on his own as Noxie drops off. Rob is up to 12th. Heath drops down to 13th, struggling on the hard again, as I said. There's Aaron West and Gary at the back as he tries to catch up and get a handful of points behind Aaron. Aaron is in the independents, so it will help Gary in the independents if he can continue to catch him and overtake him. And that's Connor, so this is going to hurt Connor, and that's the third person to hit the wall. So Connor has felt it as well, so that's a real shame for him. He was just up in 10th, he hit the wall. So we're going to maybe have another look and see if we can find a replay to see what happened to Connor, but that's pushed him down to the back of the grid. So here is Connor. Oh, and he's hit the wall way too hard there as well. Big spin out. On board with Connor. Yeah, the initial hit on the wall. Tries to spin the wheels, try to regain himself, and it didn't quite work out. On lap 10, Craig is leading, and Harry has got ahead of Josh, so let's continue to watch this then. Harry really showing some real pace in that BMW as he's got to grips with it over the season progression, and Harry now really a front runner and helping boost DC Motorsports up the teams, and if he continues here he will be very, very close to taking his first win. Joe McCall, this will be a solid fourth for him in the BMW, who is really showing some more pace in that BMW for him, and Luke. And Luke showed some good pace at Lego, so the team obviously testing their team for season 4. Not eligible for the team's points, but running as a team, and that's someone going off. That is Josh Hardy. I heard the tyres screeching. Josh is off into the gravel, and he's down to 4th now. So, and in the palms of Joe Burrows, who could potentially catch up and overtake him. So Josh hurting his points, probably pushing too hard to try and get past Harry after Harry got past him. So we'll have another look at the replay, find out what happened to Josh, and see if it was himself who put him into the gravel or whether Harry was involved. I don't think Harry was, because we didn't see him anywhere near after the incident. Let's watch Josh as he was pushing too hard, we think, into this next corner. So he just gets on the curbs and unsettles the car across the gravel and then spins out big time into the gravel. We saw a lot of that in season 2, so it's easily done. On board with Josh. There, it's just where he hits the curb. So Darren and Mike still fighting up for 6th and 7th. Mike still behind Darren, so Darren making it very hard for Mike. Darren, of course, with the red wing and wing mirrors compared to Harry, who's got the bright green ones, the same colour as the wheels. Kieran and Mark Nicol now, and Mark maintains that lead just ahead of Kieran, on board with Kieran. Fantastic racing between Mark and Kieran, even for 8th and 9th, as they catch up actually to the back of Mike and Darren now for 6th and 7th. This is going to be a very interesting race, and this will be really interesting for the team's race as well as the overall, as all 4 of them are fighting mid-pack, fighting for those points. Big gap between them and Rob in 10th, who's managed to get himself back up after struggling at the back for a little while. Gary also makes progress after his spins, and there's Luke and Heath. He's struggling on the hards. Heath is, as Aaron West and Connor fighting at the back for just a few points. So on to the final lap goes Craig, and Craig has not been under any threat for the lead. So this looks like it's going to be a dominating win, just like we've seen before from Craig, and a strong second for Harry Cooke, who is beginning to show his real talent in that BMW. Another BMW in 3rd, so the BMWs are now the car to be in, as the BMWs are really showcasing here in season 3. Season 2 really didn't see much of the BMWs other than on a couple of independent runs, but not consistently enough across the season. This is a strong showing for Joe in the Hyundai. Normally it's Heathy, no doubt, of course. Heathy is on the hard tyres, so he will struggle, but of course Craig is going to take the win then. Race 1 at Dragon Trail, very, very comfortable win. Harry Cooke had to work for it, but another 2nd place for Harry, so he will be delighted with that. A podium for Joe Thomas in his BMW, a 4th for Joe, which he'll be happy about, and 5th for Josh, so he'll be disappointed. Mark 6th position after being 2nd for a while. Kieran 7th. Darren and Mike fight for 8th and 9th, and it's Darren who gets it. And then further down towards the back end of the pack, Gary Black takes a 10th after salvaging the damage. He'll be disappointed after being 3rd at the start of this race. Rob 11th. Stephen Heath 12th, salvaging the damage there on the hard tyres. Craig gets the dominant win then, with Harry Cooke with a very, very strong 2nd. Joe McCall gets a podium 3rd, with Joe Burrows in 4th, Josh 5th, Mark 6th, Kieran was 7th, Darren's 8th, Mike in 9th, Gary was in 10th, Rob 11th, Stephen 12th, Aaron West was 13th, Connor 14th, Luke 15th, and of course Calum doesn't finish, so he doesn't get any points. What this means for the title then, Stephen Heath continues to lead with 115, but of course only scored 4 points. Up to 2nd goes Craig after the win, so he goes back up to 2nd. Rob drops down to 3rd with Mike 4th, Darren is 5th, Josh is continuing in 6th. The rest follow on. The only ones to switch around: Harry goes up to 8th, Kieran drops down to 9th, Joe Burrows goes up to 11th, with Tom dropping down after he doesn't score any points here. In the teams, Elliott are still leading with 253, K&N 240 points in 2nd, HB and DC are joint 3rd and 4th now with both 227, so that's an interesting race there. K-Tech only on 202 after 1 car only to score the points. In the independents, Gary still continues to lead with 160 points, but Josh is now only 11 points behind on 149. Connor 3 points behind Josh, so very close there still, with Tom Wright still in 4th and everyone else very close behind to continue on scoring as they race further into the season.